Thank you. That's just a quick way of how we can start this program this evening. I just want to ask each one of us, just a few of us for now, to mention their names and of course their area of expertise and where they are affiliated in less than a minute, if you don't mind. If you are able, if you are not able, you can leave us a message on the chat just to get us started. So I will start with Anthony. I can see you on top of the list. If you can unmute and give us Jambo.
Oh, Jambo to all of us. My name is Anthony Wasike, knowledge management expert also. Currently, I work with the Wildlife Research and Training Institute, which was delinked from Kenya Wildlife Service. We are based in Naivasha. I can see my students, my colleagues, my classmates, they're also on board here. That is what I can say for now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Anthony. I know we have had an interaction before. Karibu sana. Moses, please go ahead. Moses, if you can hear us, you can say Jambo. All right, I think we can move to the next. All right, Moses.
Jambo, this is Moses. Good afternoon, or is it good evening? Pleased to be joining you for this session.
Thank you very much. You're coming to us from where? You're a consultant, knowledge practitioner?
I'm a practitioner.
Thank you very much. Karibu sana, asante. Cherono? All right, Calvin, if you can unmute and say hello. Okay, I can see Gladys Kempoy. You can unmute and say Jambo.
Hi everyone, my name is Gladys Kempoy. I'm a knowledge management practitioner. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Karibu sana. I can see Ochola. That is, yes, if you can unmute and say Jambo in a few seconds, please.
Jambo, can you all hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
Thank you. My name is George Omondi Ochola. I am a knowledge management consultant, and I also work for the Standard Media Group as a librarian stroke administrator. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Bwana Ochola. Karibu. I can see Jane Karare. If you can unmute and say Jambo.
Good evening. I am Jane Karare. I work at the Ministry of Interior, Department of National Registration.
Asante sana, karibu sana. I can see Njeri. I believe this is Gladys. Karibu sana.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
I'm a knowledge management practitioner. Hey.
Thank you very much. Sorry, I hope I didn't cut you short.
No.
Thank you. You should introduce yourself well because you're one of the leaders in the knowledge management professional body.
Okay, I'm Jerry. I'm a knowledge management practitioner. Worked at KRA with Geoffrey. Cosmos was our chief manager and our mentor. Currently working at the World Trade Organization in Geneva. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Gladys. We also welcome you. And like I said, all of us are professionals and we are going to engage all of us. If we can volunteer to help us spearhead this professional body, we will really greatly appreciate. For the interest of time, I hope I've not locked anyone out. I can see Emmy. I can see Amy, if you can say hello. All right. SK, if you can say Jambo.
Hello, Geoffrey. Good evening. This is Sylvia Kimingi, Knowledge Management Specialist, currently working with Kenya Revenue Authority.
Okay, Sylvia, thank you very much. Karibu sana. Now, colleagues, I hope I haven't locked anyone out. If I have, please pardon me. You can leave us a message on the chat. I believe I've sampled almost everyone. I think it's just about that time, then we can start for the benefit of those who joined early, so that we can have enough time to interact, even as the rest of the team are going to join us. We have received about 180 registered interested participants who are interested in this discussion this evening. So we believe and pray that they will find time to join. Hopefully they haven't forgotten, or they have not been held back by work or traffic or any other barriers. But nonetheless, so to speak, I would like to start us off by introducing our speaker today. If you recall, last time we had a similar webinar, which was brought to us by one Professor Tom Kwanya, who works at the Technical University of Kenya. And he really did justice to the discussion where we were trying to demystify knowledge management and issues to do with where do you start from? How do you start implementing knowledge management? Those who belong in information management, librarians, ICT professionals, name them, who work in interrelated in this interrelated discipline. How do they blend, and how do we move forward? So there were a lot of discussions and questions that arose from that. And it's our desire going forward to be holding these engagements monthly, if possible, and with building on the expertise that we have in this group, and of course from the various representatives or colleagues who have introduced themselves here. We would like to have a database where we will invite you to make a presentation before your colleagues, so that we can grow each other together as we move forward. Now, Mr. Cosmas Kemboi works with the Kenya Revenue Authority, which is a government agency that is responsible for tax collection and mobilization. And today he is going to talk to us about getting knowledge management off the ground. And of course, how do we align that knowledge management with the business needs that keeps on changing the various environments that we business operations basically that we work in. I have known him for quite a long time, I think, and we have worked together during the time I was at Kenya Revenue Authority, and Gladys during the time she was there. Since we have, some of us have left KRA either in private practice or still working in government. We do appreciate the work that we did there. We do appreciate the work that we have helped other organizations to come up and implement knowledge management. And so today, we are privileged to have him speak to us and give us the practical aspect of knowledge management. How has it worked for KRA, and how can it work in your areas of work, where basically you guys work? If you have any questions, comments, or any observations, you can leave them on the chat. I know you would have about 30 minutes to make a presentation. Then you can ask questions, which basically will go a long way in edifying our practice. So to make it brief, we know we are many of us out there who are practicing knowledge management, and the idea of having the knowledge management body arose from the year 2015, 2016. But as you know, the few who came together and tried to champion this it's just a stepping stone for us to step in and of course, take the leadership or volunteer in the various aspects that we can serve so that we can grow this professional body together. I know there are many other related interests in the knowledge management professional body, but we have echoed this before that we can work together to grow this professional body. Lined up in the few months from now, we will be guided by the interim leadership to have a seminar, 1 week, 5 days seminar. We hope that you will keep it here and you will get an opportunity to plan and get to attend in person some of these activities. But for today, we are glad to have this online so that we can be able to meet each of our needs, especially during this time where we have constraint in the resources. So thank you very much for coming, finding time to attend. And it's my humble privilege now to invite Mr. Cosmas Kemboi to take us through the presentation for today. Thank you. Mr. Cosmas, please welcome.
Yes, thank you, Geoffrey. Maybe you can confirm whether you can hear me well.
Yes, I can hear you well. And in case anyone doesn't, you can leave me a message on the chat. We'll be able to address that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Geoffrey. And thank you everyone who has joined us this evening. I think for me, I'm very happy to see some of my former colleagues, Gladys, Geoffrey, I think Anthony Wasike. Initially, we used to work with him at KCA. Sylvia, of course, my colleague that we work currently here at KRA. Gladys Kemboi, I think we met somewhere in UN when we had that workshop, or was it a conference on knowledge management? And everyone who has joined, so good evening. My name is Cosmas Kemboi. Currently, I work in KRA as the Chief Manager, Knowledge Management and Innovation. I think in terms of experience, I have had experience in terms of knowledge management, research, teaching, curriculum development, and also practice now in KRA. I think doing practice in knowledge management for 7 years, but cumulatively for knowledge management is 13 years, and the overall experience of 23 years since I started working. I think initially I also worked as assistant lecturer at KCA University before coming to KRA. Developed a curriculum in Master's Knowledge Management and Innovation, which is currently being run at KCA. I joined KRA and pioneered the knowledge management practice for now 7 years that I've been here. And I'm very happy to be here this evening to share my experience and insight on how we can implement what we've done here, and so that we can also share, so that to see how you can also improve what we are currently doing here and elsewhere for my colleagues, for the members who are present. I think we can go straight to the presentation. It's not very long. It's not a very long presentation. I actually did prepare it based on what I have done for the 7 years I worked here. But basically, it is more of what when we started the journey of coming up with the knowledge management in terms of trying to conceptualize. I am not seeing my screen moving.
All right, I am sure someone will sort that.
Let me just.
You can share again.
Let me repeat it again. Okay. I think now it's able to move. So we can, I think we can proceed. So the outline of my presentation, I think we have knowledge and knowledge management. I think we will also approve on that. I think the most important part is getting knowledge management off the ground. And then we'll look at the enablers to get knowledge management actually off the ground for it to be able to move. And then the topic on identify and align KM to business outcome. So on the first slide, which is what is knowledge? Up to currently, there is no standard definition, or I think very close that in terms of the concept knowledge, as students of knowledge management, practitioners of knowledge management, I'm sure there is a way you define knowledge in your understanding and also where you work. But in our case here, we adopted the definition for knowledge, which was developed by, I think, Davenport, which focuses, which says that knowledge is a fluid mix of framed experience. That is, looks at the experience you have as an individual and as an organization, values, what you value as an individual and also as an organization, and then what we have contextual information. When it comes to knowledge, usually the key thing is the context in which we are differentiating information and knowledge. So the contextual information that is specific to the organization, and then intuition, judgment, and expert insight that you use that provides a framework for evaluating and incorporating new experiences and intelligence. But when you look at the definition for the book, the word intelligence, it is not using intelligence, it's using information. And there are different ways of defining knowledge, but for the purpose of this evening, this presentation, the second definition I can add is the second definition we can use for the purpose of this understanding. The ISO 341 defines knowledge also as a human or organizational asset enabling effective decisions and actions in context. And I think the word context is very critical when it comes to also distinguishing information and knowledge. So you can also see that the knowledge is human in terms of the individual, and when it is tried to accumulate within the organization, it becomes an organizational resource or organizational asset. So for the purpose of this presentation, and also in our organization, that is the definition we have adopted here. In terms of the types of knowledge, of course, we have the 20%, what we call explicit knowledge, knowledge that has in what has been documented, what you can be able to see, what you can find. And then we have the 80%, what we call the tacit knowledge. The knowledge, actually 80%. When you look at the organization as a whole, there is different people have different experience, have different knowledge, and cumulatively, research tends to show that this is the highest amount of knowledge that is available in an organization. And therefore, when you are thinking of how you conceptualizing your knowledge management program or initiatives, you need to think about, you tend to be thinking about the two concepts, the explicit knowledge and the tacit knowledge. The ISO document, I think the ISO 900 2015 and the ISO 3040 341 acknowledges the fact that we have two types of knowledge in organizations. There would be other ways people define knowledge. but most research in terms of research and practice, most of the practitioners and the researchers agree that they are actually, this is mostly how knowledge is conceptualized and understood. And this is important as you try to see how to explain knowledge management in your organization. In our case, when we were starting this is one of the important points that we also take advantage when we are creating awareness. Then the concept knowledge, in terms of definition, there are many ways of defining knowledge management. I'm sure we are now at, I think now 18 participants here. Depending on your organization, I'm sure you have a different way of defining it. In our case, we customized the knowledge management. So as a strategy that uses integrated set of initiatives, assist systems, and behavioral interventions. And usually when we think about a system, not necessarily as a technology, but looking at it, the whole knowledge management. Aimed at ensuring the right knowledge is available at the right time. Usually the most important is also available at the right time to enable the right person to make the right decision and improve performance. I'm sure my former colleagues, Jerry is aware of this. I know you may have participated in terms of conceptualizing the definition or enhancing the definition that we currently use here. Maybe you would, in the course of the discussion, I would also be happy to know which definition have you guys adopted where you work. The other one, which is very easy, is what we call the discipline. The ISO 341 have come up with a more simplified definition of knowledge management as a discipline focused on ways that organizations create and use knowledge for the benefit of the organization. When you are implementing knowledge management, the focus should be on how you can make an impact, create value for the organization, and how improve the overall performance and achievement of the organization. So it is not that people should be doing knowledge management for the sake, something nice to do, but it should be able to contribute to organizational improvement or productivity. So for now, that is how I conceptualize knowledge management, by having a clarity on the definition and having clarity on the definition of knowledge management. And I'm sure when you start, if you are a new person and you're starting to implement knowledge management, you will be getting such questions on what is knowledge management? How do you manage knowledge? Those are some of the questions. And one of the other things which research also shows is usually in knowledge management, when we try to manage the flow of knowledge in the organization. Now, in terms of, if you go straight to how I started knowledge management here at KRA, the first thing that happened, which happened before I came, I actually joined the person who probably thought of that we need to have knowledge management, was needed to create leadership with the right knowledge and expertise to conceptualize and visualize what needs to be done. I can share with you that at the moment when I walked into KRA the first time, I got a feeling and I got some feedback that the reason why you have come first is because we wanted you to provide leadership on this knowledge management. Actually, the word they used was this animal. And in the next 2 or 3 weeks, we want you to tell us, we want to see how does this animal look like, so that we can be able to tell people that we are now implementing knowledge management. So for knowledge management to actually move, or for you to be able to start and move, the most critical aspect, if I were to decide for any organization, is to have someone to provide leadership for knowledge management. Of course, at the level of the person doing it, the management in terms of people you support you, the higher levels, if depending on your organization, either director, CEO, that part is very important. And that's why I'm sure most of you here actually could be pioneers of knowledge management wherever you are. So for our case, that was the most important. The second one was, as now I was required to come up to conceptualize and provide a vision for the knowledge management. So the second thing I had to undertake was to conduct desk research on the knowledge management needs. I remember the first time I walked into to see my supervisor, I was given quite a number of strategy documents, what we call here at KRA's corporate plan, the 4th, the 5th, and the 6th. So I did a lot of review of current status, find out what has been done, if there was anything, and then what has been done previously that relates to knowledge management. And that is the same thing that you actually need to do if you are, in case you required to come up to start to pioneer knowledge management in organization. Review strategy documents. I am happy, I know most of those who work in government, MDS, what we call MDS, ministries, departments, and agencies. Most government agencies now have, or most of these parastatals, they have a strategy document. They have a strategic plan, and knowledge management is one of the, for most of them that I've seen, knowledge management is a deliverable. Engage leaders, get some feedback, go for retreats. I managed to go for a retreat when I was developing a knowledge management, what we call here Commissioners Conference. And I got an opportunity to sell not the concept of knowledge management, get some feedback. And I think the first person I met there, we are still working together on knowledge management in one of the departments here. So this was the most important part. I remember meeting one person later on became the commissioner here for domestic tax. We met in the lift and he gave me some feedback. And I was still trying to come up with the implementation matrix. So there was a lot of engagement, and noting that I was the only one on doing knowledge management. My colleagues who are not there, they had not joined KRA then, so I was still doing it alone. So this must be my first 3 months of doing the first one and the second. And also the third one, create and seek approval for knowledge management strategy. So this is another important point. As you do it in practice, you need to seek approval with clear understanding of the needs. You need to develop a knowledge management strategy. You can call it a strategic plan. You can call it an initiative. But the most important is it needs to be aligned to the business needs. And I think the next slide I will be showing you which are these critical business needs that you can align your strategy to. The strategy should have implementation matrix, monitoring and evaluation plan. And I want to share some insight on the issue of implementation matrix. When I developed the strategy the first time, I had not put the implementation matrix. And I remember sharing the first draft with the commissioner. And the first thing is, good. Can you develop an implementation matrix? And I can tell you at the point where I developed the implementation matrix, that is when you realize some things are just abstract. There's no output on what you need to deliver. So at the point of developing the implementation matrix, that's when you remove things which are abstract, you can't do it. And so the implementation matrix is very important. And of course, now developing the implementation, the monitoring and evaluation plan, where you will be able to track your performance, the output, the KPI. It should be very clear that when you do this, what is the output? And what is the specific, what will you come out of this? So that is an important thing. Of course, I will not give you all the details on what is in a strategic plan. Most of us know what is in a strategic plan. The other number 4, which is identify and propose appropriate knowledge management initiatives for your organization. I want to, I am sure what I have learned from practice and also for research, and if you look at the ISO standard for knowledge management, is you are required to choose the most appropriate knowledge management initiatives for your organization. There is no template that all organizations have to do a similar knowledge management initiatives, but you choose what is appropriate. And also you prioritize in terms of what can work for your organization. For our case, we did not have a pilot because the issue here was we need to deliver on what is in the performance contract. And I'm sure the good thing, which was very good for us at that time also, was the knowledge management was a deliverable in the corporate plan and the performance contract for the piece for the organization and the board, the leadership. So identify and propose appropriate knowledge management initiatives for your organization. So in our case, we were able to identify the first few key initiatives that we could run with, like knowledge retention, coming up with a knowledge management platform, doing the most important one, creating awareness on knowledge management. And then the other thing is within that first 1 month that I was here, I was audited. As a team came for audit in regard to ISO 9001:2015, KRA is ISO certified. And for you to get recertification, usually they require that you do develop your manual. So this was one of my key deliverables because within that first 3 months, we had to come up with a draft procedure manual so that we are compliant with the ISO. I see currently what they are saying in the literature, the most important ISO standard you need to comply with is the ISO 9001:2015. The other one of 341 is a nice one. It's nice to have, but it's not a requirement. And then second one is now where I was the other part which made us also succeed is to create a knowledge management team. So I am happy, I can confirm, I am happy to report, in my case, I had all the opportunity to create a knowledge management team. And I must say it was a very strong team. And the evidence is what has happened. We have succeeded in doing knowledge management. And 3 of my colleagues have also gotten very nice jobs. Evans, Mew, Geoffrey here, and also Gladys, who is here. So I am sure that is enough evidence that this was a very strong knowledge management team who learned from, I think most of us may have learned from scratch, but I'm happy about that that team was we were able to do knowledge management. And then the second one now is that after creating the knowledge management team is to implement the knowledge management initiatives. as per the strategy and as per your implementation matrix. So we start implementing the knowledge management initiatives. And then that is the most important part, so that now you don't just have it as a document and place it. You know, sometimes we are accused as Kenyans, sometimes we develop very nice strategies and policies, and then we don't implement them. So then after we started implementing, the other thing was create and sustain awareness. So one of the most, and if you look at what American Productivity and Quality Center talks about, is one of the major barriers to knowledge sharing and knowledge management is lack of awareness. So you need to create awareness, let people know knowledge management, knowledge sharing, how they can participate, how they can share knowledge, encourage them, promote. So there is, and then you have to do it continuously in terms of you have to sustain the awareness. The other thing, which is very important, is monitor and track progress. That is this is the most important, what they usually say, what can be measured or can also be done. So you constantly you can actually create a dashboard or a key performance you can be able to track for the different years you have done it, so that you can have something to show. So you track progress in terms of numbers. Numbers are very important. KPIs, create success stories. We've done it, and I think we continue. In terms of qualitative impact, tracking success stories is important. It helps you to show impact of what you've done. However, sometimes, however small it is, but it is important to do it. So these are the areas that we did for us to be able to get knowledge management off the ground. And then the second point is on the enablers to get knowledge management off the ground. Is in our case, or in my experience, is the knowledge management being among the corporate plan initiatives. I established that knowledge management was one of the initiatives that needs to be done in our organization. Well, I think for about like 3 times 3, that is 9 years. And that I think it had not moved. So when we came in, it moved. And the reason why it was able to, so this was one on the enablers, the fact that it is in a corporate plan and something that needs to be delivered. For me, it was a good, I will consider very strongly as one of the enablers as to why we were able to move. The second one is compliance with the ISO. Knowledge management is a requirement for LMDS. At that time, it was for the first 6 years. In our case, I think the first 3 years, it was in the performance contract for all MDS. I think in the last 2 years is when we have not had knowledge management as a requirement in the performance contract for government agencies. So now, this is one of the things I consider as one of the enablers in our case. So ISO 9001:2015 certification is one of the components. Knowledge management is one of them, what we call the organizational knowledge. And we've never missed to be audited. Most of the time they came for external audit. The auditor used to be very keen to see what we have done on knowledge management. And this gave us more weight and gave us even to be able to do it better. The other one is, which is very important, is creation of knowledge management unit in the organization structure. Of course, we found this one, and it's the reason why I got a job. It was already in the organization structure, but I also got a chance while here to institutionalize it in a better way in terms of the numbers, of a structure, and then also look at it in our organization. We are lucky that at the higher level, at the higher level of the division, we have research, knowledge management, and corporate planning division. My supervisor those days, Mr. Ogai, used to tell me that knowledge management is one of my biggest function. And having knowledge management in the organization structure is very important. And it's a risk area it's a risk in some in organization. If you don't have it as a deliberate unit or a function, it might sometimes have a challenge in terms of sustainability. So this is one of the enablers. Leadership support with abundance of discretion. I was happy because when I started knowledge management, I was given some level of discretion. The fact that I was recognized as an expert, as an expert in knowledge management. And my supervisor used to say, we are the ones who know what knowledge management is. We know what we can do the first year, the second year. So we had a lot of discretion. I remember that I received very little in terms of supervision guideline. So like now, so it's given the fact that I had a lot of discretion to do knowledge management, I could decide what we can do. And this, for me, this was one of the enablers, leadership support, and then the support in terms of resources, in terms of the staff. The most important resource that I value is not the money. I value the fact that I have the staff, I have my team that we can work together. I consider that as one of my critical support that I have received in KRA. When I convinced management that I need more staff, I got the numbers that I asked for. And also add the discretion to identify the right people. So that is one of the, I consider that is one of the enablers why we succeeded in terms of building a strong knowledge management team. And then one of the key facts that which I was sharing with one of my former colleagues in the research who recently came here. And I was telling him one of the things that helped us at the beginning of knowledge management was institutionalizing KM requirement in staff clearance form. And he was very excited about it. And here, the fact that we are able to make it as a requirement, which means we have to prepare well in terms of what are the initiatives we are going to do for it to be sustained and for it to make an impact for the organization. So having this requirement is also aligned to one of our key initiatives, what we call knowledge retention and transfer. So all KRA staff who are exiting, we have to clear them. And we are happy in terms of our knowledge retention and transfer initiative. It's a process. And usually the last process is to clear them. So this is, I consider this as one of the enablers that helped us to move. Another important one is partnership with departments, partnership with stakeholders, partnership with our customers, partnership with our clients in implementation of knowledge management. Not doing it alone, identifying the key. For example, in one of our key partners for implementation of knowledge management was the legal service and board coordination. One of our department responsible for the legal matters here was our first customer. When I was doing the desk research, I got to understand that there was a memo that required, they were expecting knowledge management. And therefore, this was one of the departments that we engaged them at the start, and they were the first client. And therefore, we took into consideration their needs and remains our key partner in terms of implementation of knowledge management. I also consider this one to be one of the drivers of successful implementation of knowledge management. Given that the knowledge resides, you don't have the knowledge is with the employees of the organization. The other enablers is clarity of objectives and initiatives, setting clear objectives and initiatives to be implemented, and then seeing it, how it benefits the organization. So clarity of objectives, and this relates to, I think, the next slide that I'll be sharing, setting clear objectives and initiatives to be implemented. The other enabler, which I've already explained, is the knowledgeable knowledge management team. I think I've explained that more than enough. And then another very important point is what we call strategic communication. You need to communicate the impact of knowledge management. What are you currently doing? What are you planning to do? Engaging the departments even at the beginning of the financial year. What are you going to do to support them? So we sustain what so in terms of knowledge management, I value something called strategic communication, constant communication, letting your clients know what you're doing and the benefits, how they can benefit, and how you can support them to achieve their mandate or achieve what they are doing. The other very important enabler in our case is our core values. The KRA organizational values supports knowledge sharing. We have 4 core values here, and one of the values called being helpful as a component of share what you know. So when we were coming up with strategic direction in terms of the vision, mission, and the objectives and values, we adopted the KRA values. And one of them is being helpful. And it is usually every year, it is measured as part of the KRA core values, and that we are able to support the organization to achieve their core values. The other part is on aligning the management, the business outcome of the organization. The outcome. So one of the very critical thing in terms of making knowledge management to now get off the ground and actually succeed and sustain it up there is identifying aligning the knowledge management initiatives to the business outcomes, or what we call the business needs or the business outcome of the organization. So as you come up with a strategy, it is very critical to align the knowledge management vision, mission, the objectives and the initiatives to the mandate of the organization. So this is a very important in terms of the aligning the business, the outcome. The second one, which is understanding the business needs. You need to identify the key challenges faced by the organization that require the knowledge management support. Because not all the business needs or outcomes require knowledge management support. So you identify those ones that really, when you provide the support, they will feel the impact. So what are the objectives and the outcome that the business is striving to achieve? I remember one of the senior managers telling me, as we need to collect revenue, can you give us the knowledge that we can collect more revenue? That's what we want from you. So if you are doing a strategy, you should do something that is going to help us to collect more revenue. So the examples of business needs that I identified is increasing knowledgeability of the organization, increasing knowledgeability of staff. The more your employees are knowledgeable, the more they are going to achieve or become more productive, achieve what they are supposed to do. They deliver on their tasks, they deliver on their mandate, they become more productive. So you need to show how knowledge management is going to increase knowledge of staff. How is it going to increase productivity? For example, when staff are able to access knowledge at the right time, they are able to know the person who have the knowledge. They can quickly consult the expert because they can easily know and access the information or access the knowledge resources from your knowledge management platform or whatever you're offering. Then your staff are able to be more productive. For example, this issue of productivity, we measure it almost every year in our knowledge management survey, asking staff to the extent to which knowledge management has supported them in terms of productive. And then you are able to see the score, and then you track that performance over a number of years to see whether if there was no knowledge management, would you be doing better? So you want to show that with knowledge management initiatives, for example, if you're able to provide access to knowledge, then you can actually see staff will be able to be more productive. And you can look at in terms of the extent to which people are using the knowledge resources, the extent to which people are coming for your participating in the knowledge management initiatives. For example, the knowledge sharing sessions that we conduct here. The more people attend, the more people participate, the more people ask questions, then we are able to see that it is actually making an impact in their work. So in terms of performance improvement, knowledge retention, I think this is one of the areas I found that KRA requires it was a need, knowledge retention, or what we can call knowledge succession. You want to retain the knowledge of staff. If you, for example, you want to retain knowledge, then you can implement what we call knowledge retention and transfer initiative. Knowledge accessibility, most organizations, they generate and accumulate a lot of knowledge resources in terms of as they implement their strategies, as they implement their programs, as they do their work, there is a lot of knowledge that is generated and needs to be shared with staff. Staff require it. So you need to have your knowledge management initiatives need to provide, to facilitate knowledge access, knowledge accessibility. And the other one is knowledge sharing and also the knowledge sharing culture of the organization. So this is also a need for organizations because knowledge has an impact in terms of what people do. Relates to knowledge accessibility is knowledge publication or knowledge storage. When you have the knowledge, in our case, for example, we have the knowledge management platform, iKnow, where we are able to collect, or first we are able to identify knowledge that is required by KRA staff. We are able to get the person who has that knowledge. We are able to constantly get those knowledge resources and we publish in the iKnow platform, and then staff are able to use it. So this is a very important need for most organizations. They need where you can publish knowledge resources for quick access. The other need for organization is an issue related to how you can accelerate innovation, how you can have an impact on informed decisions, And the most critical one is achieving the mandate of the organization. So overall, you must be able to link what you're doing on knowledge management and the achievement of the organization. So if you are building a case for program or implementation, you need to see how if you can link your initiatives and the achievement of the mandate of the organization. Or for example, in our case, we say the more our staff are knowledgeable, the more we are going to collect more revenue. So we have a tagline that we call our knowledge, our revenue. As we come to the close, knowledge management initiatives to the business outcome. So I think that is very important. You align now all the initiatives, the business outcome, knowledgeability, productivity, performance improvement, knowledge retention, knowledge succession. I think knowledge retention and knowledge succession are similar. Knowledge accessibility, knowledge sharing. So if you ensure the initiatives that are doing you want to implement are aligned to the business outcomes of the organization. But remember, the mandate of the organization is very critical. The other final need is identify the knowledge management support that you can give. For example, in our case, at the beginning of the year, we share with the department or the commissioners the knowledge support that we can provide at the beginning of the year. So we tell them we are going to do 1, 2, 3, 4. And when we do them, it supports your overall mandate achievement in terms of making your staff more productive, more improve their performance. And we are able to retain the knowledge of the experts who are set to retire. So once you know the business needs, then what support can you offer? What can knowledge management offer that is required to meet those needs? So that is very important as one of the ways on how you can align knowledge management, aligning knowledge management to business outcome. I'm sure if you all do this, then your knowledge management will get off the ground, and then you are able to now talk about institutionalizing it, sustainability. So what I've explained is more of what we did in the first 3 years of our knowledge management program. Thank you. I think that comes to the end of my presentation.
Wonderful. Thank you very, very, very much, Bwana Cosmas. You indeed did justice to the presentation for this webinar for tonight. I think, colleagues, I hope you picked something. If anything, I am sure you picked one component that you can run away with. Knowledge management, for you to be successful, you ought to start small. You ought to see and pick the quick wins, you know, the things that you can quickly win the support of the management or the top management in your organization and the support from your colleagues. I believe that is more or less what Cosmas has presented, and because of time, I would want to open this for a discussion or a comment or a question, if there be any, and I would like to start with the questions that have been posted on the chat. There is one question from Gladys Kemboi, who is asking, do leaders actively support knowledge management and clearly define expectations from staff in KM roles? Perhaps it's a question for you or for any one of us within this group. They can give us, you can share your experiences as you respond on this. And it's open to anyone to respond. Of course, Cosmas will go first. Then the second question from Kenneth is there a framework want to use in their organization to knowledge management? I think Kemboi will respond on this, but most explicitly, to just by way of commenting or answering that, we are actually in the process of having a knowledge management summit organized by this professional body, a 3 to 5 days seminar, whereby we will take each one of us step by step on how to come up with a framework to implement knowledge management in the organization. One of the other areas that we're looking at is how do you develop a knowledge management strategy? So just be on the lookout. So, and a plan ahead in this, of course, financial year, so that you also align your budgets in your organizations for training, for seminars, so that you can be able to attend to one of the very important seminars that we are planning ahead of us. That said, Mr. Cosmas, are you able to respond to the 2 questions? And I believe the rest of the members here can also give their thank
you. Yes. Thank you, Gladys. To lead us actively support KM and clearly defined expectation for staff in non-KM roles. The answer here is yes, both for KM staff and also for the non-KM staff. That is everyone. We have defined in our knowledge management initiatives specific roles for all staff. And also, we are lucky that our knowledge management, our KRA values has a component of knowledge sharing. So it's already even defined in our case, in our KRA, in our value, which is being helpful. And they have a different component of that specific value as a number of expectation for staff. So in our case, there are specific roles for all KM, for all staff, who are not KM staff only, all KRA staff. For example, one staff are expected to share what they know and help someone. And usually it is asked during the employee satisfaction every year. For example, the extent to which staff are sharing knowledge with their colleagues. And then the question, what we also measure is when you ask for knowledge from your colleagues, do you get the right answer? You get the knowledge that you've asked. So there are specific roles, even the behaviors, we have indicated them in our knowledge management policy. And there is also a very specific one for everyone who travels outside the country. When they come back, it's a requirement they develop, generate a report, what we call international mission reports. So I expected to do that. Staff who are retiring, the staff who are set to retire, we engage them 2 years in, and so there are specific roles for example, someone who is retiring in the next 2 years. There are specific expectations, and we give them what they are supposed to do in terms of in terms of a letter, a documented document. We give them a letter which is written through their head of department or their line manager, that now that you're going to retire in the next 2 years, this is the expectation, and you are expected to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for the next 2 years. So Gladys, there are specific expectations for all KRAs, for staff. For Kenneth, to Kenneth, is there a framework to use in their organization or knowledge? Okay, I think the issue here is there a framework on how to implement knowledge management? My answer is also what I think I have presented. A framework is actually to say, this is what we want to do in an organization. How do you measure that we have knowledge management in KRA? Or how do you measure that we have knowledge management in your organization, for example, where you work in practice? So one document that I can refer you is the knowledge management policy for Kenya. Knowledge management policy for Kenya is actually, you can actually consider, if you look at that knowledge management policy, there are specific initiatives that organizations can do in government and even in the private sector. You can also consider that one as a framework because it gives you the specific initiatives that you can do in knowledge management. Or to answer the question where my supervisor used to say, we want to know what is this, how does this animal look like? So if you want to that we know have knowledge management, for example, it is the initiatives. The other framework that you can look at is the ISO standard. The ISO 9001/2015 as a component of organizational knowledge. So it tells you what you can do when you are doing knowledge management. So you can also consider that as one of the guiding framework for knowledge management. And also then the specific component, the ISO standard for knowledge management, the 34/2018, also again gives you some insights on which initiatives you can do to solve a specific problem, or if you want to achieve something. If, for example, if you want to achieve knowledge retention, then you can do knowledge retention and transfer initiative. If you want to publish the knowledge resources that are generated in the organization, then you must have a framework and also a platform that you can use to publish knowledge resources. So you can have a knowledge management portal, you can call it a portal, a system, a technology, where you are able to identify, publish your knowledge resources for people to come and use them. And that is also one of the most basic, if in terms of publishing knowledge resources, you need a platform for doing that. So I think for the purpose of that, for me, I don't consider knowledge management very complicated. It is just identify a few workable initiatives that you can do, and then you can implement them. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Back to Geoffrey.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think we can handle the last batch of questions. There are 3. We can handle those ones, and then we will finish at that for the interest of time. Safari Agure from Kemri, KRA deals with big data. What are the plans to integrate AI and machine learning? Are there any plans to integrate AI and machine learning on the data that is being collected by KRA, and of course, linking that to knowledge management? And then the second question, what are the storage options for KRA library? That one. And lastly, what is your experience? This is from Richard. What is your experience on harvesting tacit knowledge? I think once we handle those ones, I beg that we finish at that, unless there are any further critical questions we can handle. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Geoffrey. I think I wanted to deal with the last question you asked. The experience on, I was looking for it to see it here. The last question was on your experience on harvesting. Harvesting tacit knowledge.
Yes.
Let me
it's a question that came directly
because that is
me.
Yeah, because that's a very perfect question in regard to the scope of knowledge management. Now, and it is one of the critical initiatives that you can actually do in your organization to make an impact, is how you can be able to harvest tacit knowledge from staff. In our case, it's a very long explanation, but we do it under what we call knowledge retention and transfer initiative. 1, targeting our retiring experts, where we place them in a structured knowledge transfer process, where the expert is paired with a team of staff so that they can be able to retain that knowledge from the expert for a period of not less than 6 months, but we start the entire process for, as per our policy, for 2 years. And then the most final one is usually creating a framework where you are able to now interview. We have created a very nice template, which is customized, which we normally customize based on the expertise of the expert we want to engage. So now we have a very, very good process of coming up with the very specific knowledge areas based on the expertise of the staff that we have identified. Then we identify the people they have been working with, someone who understands their knowledge, and also there's someone who understands the knowledge they might need from that person before they leave. And then now we do what we call knowledge retention and transfer video documentation. We capture a video. Most of our videos take about 1 to 2 hours, where we are able to interview them, being interviewed by people who understand the knowledge area, or the expert, the person who understands that knowledge area, being the person interviewing them. So that finally, we are able to have recorded knowledge. And then we will be able to publish that knowledge in our knowledge management platform, and then staff can be able to use it. So if you come here, you will not, we have actually captured most of our knowledge from our key staff who have left, and the knowledge is available here, and people are able to use them in form of explicit and also tacit knowledge. That was on how a brief on how you can harvest. The second one, I think the other question is related to one for Kemri, Savari Angure from Kemri. For me, in our case, this is out of scope in terms of what we do as knowledge management. There's a whole division that deals with the issue of data management. It's a different division. Of course, they generate knowledge, but it's out of the scope of our mandate for knowledge management. But we have a fully functional division in charge of that. And then there is a question on what are the storage options for KRA library. Again, this is again outside the scope for knowledge management function, but we do have our library which is fully functional. However, for the purpose of, there is some initiatives that we partner with the library, the knowledge management team partner with the library for the purpose of publishing some of the information material that they have in the library, and they can use the knowledge management platform as what you're calling the storage, so that they can store there. But then I like the word using publishing, because once you put it there, then people can be able to access it. So we do have a function for the knowledge management, which supports the library in terms of publishing some of the information materials that have been digitized, and they are available in soft copy. So there is a way we work with the library team and the KM to achieve that mandate for the library. Thank you, Geoffrey. I think there is no other one that I've left.
Thank you very much. For the interest of time, so that we can be able to comply with our promises to start on time and to keep time. We can leave it at this. If there be any further questions, you have our emails, you can send that to our emails. If you have any questions, any area that you rate to you that you'd want us to discuss, you can make those suggestions so that we can line it up for our next topic or series, so that we can grow each other in this profession. I want to acknowledge some colleagues who have joined. There are many. I saw Jeremiah Nyaberi. I have seen Richard Hamali, a longtime friend of mine from Strathmore University. I saw Professor Wario here. I may have dropped at some point. I just want to acknowledge each and every member who found time to attend to this webinar that has been brought to us by the Knowledge Management Practitioners Society of Kenya. And just to encourage you, we have products for you, or if you can check on our website, we have various products for you. And if you are interested, you can register so that we grow each other together in this field. Just want to say thank you. Be on the lookout for the next series. And of course, the seminar that we will be having in the coming months. This will be in person. We would like each one of us to participate. To close us, I would like to invite our secretary, Bwana Humphrey Moturi, from the is a PhD student at the Technical University of Kenya. If you are able to unmute and say one word to as a way of saying thank you to the members, please do, so that you can dismiss us. Asante.
Hey, thanks, Jeffrey. Hopefully you can get me clearly.
Yes, please proceed.
Okay, thank you. So I want to thank Mr. Kemboi for the good presentation. We've quite learned quite a number of things. And one thing I know is that knowledge management being very contextual, we need to really look for ways to implement these organizations. So as Jeffrey has said, KMPSK is a platform where we want to engage as knowledge managers. And we ask all of you to join hands so that we can be able to grow this profession and also have a platform where we can engage constructively. So I want to wish everyone all the best, and thanks for joining us. And check out our website. And in case of any questions, you'll be able to get our contact details there. So I want to wish you all the best and say it's a wrap. Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you very much. Bwana Cosmas, one last request. If you are able to share the PowerPoint presentation, if that is okay, then we will send it through, of course, through the email addresses that you registered with, so that you can make further reference. Thank you very much and have a blessed week ahead of you.
Thank you.